Hi everyone, this is very exciting for us. Welcome to Jesters of Tamriel, the podcast. I am James, and I'm here with Jake. Are you there?
I am here.
Hello Jake, how are you today? Are you more of a Dragonborn than a lusty Argonian mate, or what's the mood?
I'm Heimskier. Feel like shouting a lot.
This podcast is gonna be kind of geared towards Elder Scrolls 6. We're here in February of 2025, if you're listening later, and at this point we know a little bit, but almost nothing about the elusive Elder Scrolls 6. We're gonna look ahead and see what's happened. We're gonna cover the news, and we're gonna talk about other role-playing games that Elder Scrolls 6 can kind of learn from in the process. Did I get the whole thing, Jake?
I think that's it.
Just for people that don't know you, obviously our Instagram is a worldwide sensation of almost 30,000 followers.
Hugely popular.
I mean.
Well.
So, anyways, for people that don't know you, what's your best or first? You can do best or first Elder Scrolls memory, and what's the first Elder Scrolls game you played?
Skyrim, actually. I played a little bit of Oblivion, but that was way back in the day, and I was a young lad. So I mostly remember the arena and like getting the Adoring Fan and then going to the top of the mountain, and you know what happened after that. But Skyrim was the first one I really played. The best memory and the first memory I really have from Skyrim back in 11 was the first time coming to Riverwood. That first Skyrim feeling, getting the vibe, getting hit with the Skyrim music, and first time talking to Lucan Valerius and getting that annoying Golden Claw quest and talking to Rayloff and stuff like that. Whoa, what a feeling. Punching the chicken.
What a feeling.
What was your first Elder Scrolls game?
Yeah, I'm a little older than you, of course. So my first memory, I got into the Elder Scrolls with Oblivion. I wanted to say Elder Scrolls Castle just to piss people off. But no, I played... I played Oblivion first, actually just totally on a whim. I didn't know anything about it or what it was, but I just saw it on like a local TV show, and I got very fascinated by that opening scene in the jail.
Yes.
And there's some chains in the ceiling that are kind of smashing around, like the physics, and I was just like, that's real life, I need to play it. I didn't know what it was. It was just, I literally went and asked for like the jail game. Favorite memory, I don't know favorite, but I remember one time, because you and I, we played Skyrim together on release day, right?
We did.
Back in 2011. It's kind of more like your memory. You were sitting playing. I was gonna get something in the kitchen.
I know what you want to say.
You were on that quest with the, what is it called? Golden Glow Estate?
Yes, exactly.
You have to burn a couple of beehives, and everything was going smoothly, smooth sailing, just nice day. And I leave for a second. I come back, the whole game is on fire. The whole game.
I was so upset.
And, all the NPCs are mad or whatever. What happened there?
Yeah, well, the thing is that I think Brynjolf says to you that you're only supposed to burn 3 of the beehives in order not to make too much of a mess. And I was sneaking my way through that Golden Glow Estate, like really trying not to be seen by anyone, because there's a lot of NPCs and guards. And then all of a sudden, this giant dragon, and it was my first dragon encounter, except the first dragon you fight. It was my first like wild dragon encounter, and it burned everything to the ground, and I was so mad.
I knew that's what you say happened that time, but I just really doubt that a dragon happened to come by. Dragon was nowhere to be seen when I came back.
There was a dragon burning the whole thing down. I'm telling you. And I kept getting this message like 4 out of 3 beehives burned, 5 out of 3, and I was like, mission fail, quest fail. I was like, no.
Oh well, that's the beauty of Skyrim. All right, so that's who we are. Let's move on to the next part.
Let's do it.
We're gonna start this off by talking a little bit about Elder Scrolls 6. So join us for the main quest in a second. The reason we started this now is that we feel like 2025, we know that the game is being made. We know it's a matter of time. It might be 3 years, 2 years, it might be 4 years.
To be honest, I have to say that I was more excited and more hyped when that, gameplay reveal or the reveal trailer came out like 6 years ago or whatever it was. Now it's difficult to keep the hype up because it's been so long, so many years. But I'm trying, and I'm trying to stay positive on Bethesda's behalf.
I wanted to start us off on just a factual point. So I'm just gonna list the things. What do we actually confirmed know about Elder Scrolls 6?
My guess is nothing.
Yes. Well, moving on. Next segment. We do have some confirmed stuff, and then we have a little bit of almost confirmed stuff. So, we know that the Elder Scrolls 6 is in full production. We know it started full production right after Starfield release in 2023. So it has had a whole year and a little bit extra of full production. So that's something. We also know that it's going to use the same game engine as Starfield. I also found a confirmation from, I don't remember, someone from Bethesda, not Todd Howard, saying in March of 2024 that there are early builds of the game and they are being played in-house. So there is someone who has played Elder Scrolls 6 in some sort of capacity. It was playable in March of 2024. Of course, probably a pretty, basic version, but it's fun to think about that someone has already kind of played around in the world of Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, see, this is news to me, and that excites me because I had no idea.
The last thing that I found that is confirmed is a bit of a wild card, but do you know who the Skyrim grandma is? Grandma Shirley Curry?
Yes.
It's weird because the only real thing we've seen, to my knowledge, from Elder Scrolls 6 is we've seen her being motion captured or whatever that is for Elder Scrolls 6. We know that she's the first confirmed NPC in the game, and we've seen it a little bit. It's weird to think about that Skyrim grandma is the first bit of confirmed Elder Scrolls kind of thing we have. But there you go. The next ones are not confirmed, but they seem to be almost. So here we go. What's assumed, at least? It is. Everybody would be highly shook if it doesn't take place in High Rock and Hammerfell.
Yes.
That's kind of like, what do you think about that setting? If you don't know, I can just... High Rock is kind of the home of the Bretons. It is like a green, hilly, kind of based on Europe, so European style. Hammerfell is should be based on, or as far as I could see, based on North Africa, and is of course the home of the Red Guards. It's much more barren. It's a desert. Just early thoughts on that, Jake. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think that sounds interesting and very exciting. I hope no matter what they do and what they decide to go from in terms of where it takes place, I hope they do, as they also did a lot in Skyrim with just different environments, because I would hate it to be like the biggest game they've ever made, and then it's only one like plain environment the whole way through. And I hope they also play around with mountains and the 7,000 steps and stuff like that.
I mean, if they don't even do mountains, that's one thing we've seen in the teaser trailer from 2018, right? There was mountains. If they took out the mountains, I'll be mad.
If they don't do that, then they have already disappointed.
That's kind of it. We're gonna talk a little bit about now what we want. We have we'll kind of do the kind of a wish list of Elder Scrolls 6. I've asked you to prepare something for that wish list. I have something myself. Do you want to start and tell everybody what you would love to see in Elder Scrolls 6?
I would love them to play more around with some random encounters on your journey. Could be while fast traveling, could be while just walking through the map.
Just if someone isn't totally aware of what that is, just...
Yeah, so what I mean is like it was in Dragon Age Origins, they played around with it in, I know, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, that you're playing at the moment. Also in stuff like Starfield, they did a little bit, but you're walking from one city to another, and then suddenly something happens. You meet a thief, you meet some guards. It can be a little thing, it can be an hour-long quest. I don't really mind that much.
Yeah, but you had the reference of Starfield, right? So like you sometimes would go into orbit, and as far as I remember, you got like pinged by a ship or another spacecraft, and over the intercom you would have different things, different little messages, sometimes just jokes, sometimes they would lead to a side quest line,
longer quests or whatever. Yeah, and I would love them to integrate that more. They did it a little bit in Skyrim. There sometimes you go from city to city, there is a thief, or there are some guards with a captive, or you're attacked by a dragon or wild animal, and also maybe put so much focus and effort into it that it actually leads somewhere, so it's not just a little random thing, but it actually maybe starts a quest line.
Do you want to hear mine?
Yeah, hit me.
What if Elder Scrolls 6 has a quest line where we dip into Skyrim again and maybe go back and see a character? Like, for example, the size of Dawnguard, that kind of like little map you get with the castle, just a small snippet. And then, for example, a quest where you have to go back and see Ulfric or something. I don't know which timeline we're in or what, but wouldn't that be cool?
Oh my God.
You see a whole kind of narrative reveal trailer, and at the end, Ulfric, or, Jarl, what is he called? Balrog? What is his name?
Balgruff.
Balgruff just comes up and he's like, mic drop moment. Maybe he's walking away from an explosion in slow motion. I don't know. Wouldn't that be
legendary? If I can get to go to Whiterun and slap Nassim in Elder Scrolls 6, I'm a happy man. I need nothing more in life.
Elder Scrolls 6, Skyrim 2? Wouldn't that be amazing?
No, I think you're right, and I think,
as you said before, there is a lot of kind of, I don't know, semi-excitement. Just to clarify, we both love Bethesda Game Studios. A lot of people at least feel that Starfield, we'll get back to that, but might not have been the best game they've ever done. So, but just imagine, how do you kind of regain that hype? Well, of course, do something entirely new. I'm not saying do Skyrim 2, but just have a little snippet of something, that we know from Skyrim, or just a character. It doesn't even it would be cool if it took place in Skyrim, but it could just be a Skyrim character that has a quest line. We're going to talk more about that now. We're going to go into space and talk about what we learned from our travels in the Starfield. So we'll be back with that in a second. Obviously, Starfield is the latest released single-player RPG from Bethesda Game Studios. What 3 things would you love to see in Elder Scrolls 6 be taken from Starfield, or 3 things that worked well in Starfield that is going to be brought to Elder Scrolls 6?
Yeah, and this was actually a difficult question, because I think there's a lot of negative vibe surrounding Starfield, and I agree with a lot of it, but I think we also have to remember that, of course, it wasn't a terrible, awful game in every way, there is, of course, some things that actually kind of worked. What I wrote down is that I think Starfield actually, to some degree, managed to do their companion system quite well. And what I mean by that is they had fewer companions, of course, than in, let's take Skyrim as an example. They were very different. They actually seemed like real people and not just like an extra backpack. And
okay, I see that.
And then I would also say that I like the system they made with consequences based on who you spend time with, who you don't spend time with, who you engage with, and stuff like that. And again, huge spoiler alert, but quite early in the game, there is a big consequence of, like, depending on which companion you've been with and who you haven't, basically. But I kind of like how they evolve their companions, and I hope they keep going with that.
Yes, I think, of course, companions is something that, might have been done better by other games, but I think if you just look at Bethesda Game Studios, I think that was by far the best. Well, I mean, I also like them in Fallout 4 to a certain extent, but I think they've never been so layered before. They didn't have so much personality. I would agree that Starfield's versions of companions is probably the best that Bethesda has done.
I think so.
Is there like a little, not changed, but is there something they could just tune so they were like, mwah, chef kiss?
Well, I love games with, going back to one of my all-time favorites, Dragon Age Origins, games with where they put a lot of focus on the companions and also a lot of focus on their background story, who they are as a person. They give them lots of character traits. They really make you believe that these are actually, real characters, and you invest in them and you feel what they feel. So to go even further into that. And then, of course, you can choose to interact with it. You can choose to completely ignore it. But as long as it's a possibility, I would love to see that.
Okay, cool. What's your second thing from Starfield you would like to see continued in Elder Scrolls 6?
Actually, I kind of like how they have very distinctively different settlements, cities, with its own culture, its own people, its own kind of vibe. I think what they did with the settlements and the 3 or 4 big cities they have in Starfield, that it's so different, and you can really feel when you go to whatever it's called, Neon or New Atlantis, whatever it's called, that it's a different place with different people. They went in their own direction. And I think I love most of the Skyrim cities. I think they're great. They're very cozy, but they're quite similar in, feel and vibe and atmosphere. So maybe go a little bit into that direction. Again, I'm not saying they have to be all completely different cities, but just think more about what makes this place special.
I like that thought a lot. I think that was probably easier for them to do in Starfield, considering it was meant to be outer space, and these kind of settlements would have kind of popped up without maybe having that much interaction. Of course, in an Elder Scrolls game, it's much more likely that, like just like in the real world, that, you know, different cultures build the same type of cities. Of course, there is difference from Markarth to Riften and stuff, but it's, you know, Starfield kind of took a bigger swing in the sense that they went like, okay, one is like a cyberpunky city, one is like, you know, Wild West. Does that make sense, or is that really well explained in the game? Why, you know,
Not really.
why would they go back to the old frontier and build like a cowboy city? It doesn't make any sense, but was it fun to play and see the first time? Definitely. Could you imagine that kind of working in Elder Scrolls 6 where they went so high concept with the cities?
No, I would then go back to the first point about the setting of the next Elder Scrolls, that I really hope they make like different places, even though it's maybe 1 or 2 countries. But I think what they did, for example, in Skyrim with the Dragonborn DLC, where you go to Raven Rock, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very different. It's a completely new vibe. And I know it's also a different island. It's away from Skyrim, so it makes sense. But going more into that direction would be fun. I think Starfield is exaggerated again, because as you say, it's in outer space, it's different planets. It makes sense that it's different part of the civilization. But I think working on a smaller scale, but still trying to make distinctively different vibes would be nice.
All right. What's your third thing that you would like to bring into Elder Scrolls 6 from Starfield?
Well, that is actually, I would say, from Starfield, what I enjoyed the most, what I remember most fondly, is the UC SysDef versus the Crimson Fleet questline. How that kind of just dragged me into that whole thing randomly. I don't remember, I think I was put in jail for stealing or something, and then all of a sudden I was part of this huge questline where I was infiltrating the Crimson Fleet, and I could always choose to betray the SysDef and go another direction. It was very entangled into each other. The interactions with both sides were fun, and it seemed like you had a choice to just go completely opposite the whole way through. And I like that. I think it was nicely made from beginning to end, actually.
You like the interactivity, interconnectivity between the factions, and you would like to see that in Elder Scrolls 6, that they aren't so isolated from each other. Is that what I get?
Yeah, I think so. And it doesn't have to mean that you can only do one faction or another faction. I still enjoy in Skyrim that I can do everything, because that's kind of the point with the whole open
like
world
in one playthrough
thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to be able to do the whole thing, but it's also fun that they are interacting, and maybe that some 2 big factions are kind of one quest line, if that makes sense. So would be like Thieves Guild and Dark Brotherhood being one big quest line where they kind of interacted instead of 2 separate ones.
We were main questing before. This is a side quest, but it's still...
That is my favorite thing to do.
We'll see, but this one, of course, we'll tie it into Elder Scrolls 6. Don't worry, we can't get through anything without talking about Elder Scrolls. It's going to be weird when we're going to get married and stuff. Not to each other, but to our partners. But anyways, you and I have played, and I will say love very dearly, the Dragon Age series.
Indeed.
Then we're at the Veilguard now, which is number 4 in that franchise. You are kind of special here, because you have just 100%ed the game. You did everything in the game. Is that correct?
I did everything. I am a little bit of a completionist. I can't help it.
Yeah, that's nice. So I have some questions, because I've played about like I think 40 hours. And I liked it, but I want to ask you some things about this game. First, to just set the scene.
Yes.
Dragon Age Veilguard is what I would call a quite divisive game for different reasons. For example, on Metacritic, the reviewers have given it an 82 out of 100, which is really generally favorable, super green. The users have given it a 3.9. I don't even know why that's not the same scale. I'm sure that's out of a 10. Otherwise, it's pretty rough.
Hopefully.
And that says generally unfavorable. So the point being, it's kind of divisive. I asked my AI, what is the 5 things that people complain about with the Veilguard? And I want to hear your take on it, since you 100%ed it. So the first thing that people are unhappy about is inconsistent writing and forced dialogue. Players have noted that some character interactions and storylines feel forced or included merely to fulfill certain quotas, leading to a less immersive experience. Writing, basically, right? So what do you think?
This, I have to say, I 100% agree with. Unfortunately, even though I 100%ed it, I did everything. I was definitely not as invested as I've been in previous Dragon Age games. As you also said in the beginning, for me it's the same, that I loved Origins the most, and then it kind of went downhill from there. And I think that's partly because of the writing of the characters. I don't think the dialogue usually flows very natural. It doesn't feel like it belongs in that fantasy world they created. It feels like a kind of a weird modern take on a completely different world, timeline, and place. And I did actually not really enjoy talking to my companions. And that was my favorite thing about Origins. That was being in the camp and engaging with my companions and giving them gifts and trying to make them like me and hearing about their background story and all this. And it kind of felt like a chore in the Veilguard, which I blame mostly on the dialogue and the writing that just didn't seem very fitting.
I don't want to go so much into it because I feel like at this point it's been talked about. But of course there has been people that didn't like, let's just touch on a little bit like certain parts of some of the characters. I don't think we need to like go that much into, because at this point it's been covered, but I'm just saying, like, is it because of stuff like that there's a lot of, like, I would say, like, review bombing, or that people are putting it lower? Because obviously it's not a 3.9 out of 10, I think.
No, for sure it isn't.
If you take out that drama, is the rest of the game the main quest line, without maybe spoiling the ending, because it probably is pretty new still, but is it good writing? Is it a good story?
Well, to comment on that, I think not only Taj, but also a lot of the other companions, their writing just seems quite shallow and narrow and without depth. And I will say the story didn't really get me that much until the very last quest. So I will give it that the last final quest that took 2 or 3 hours for me to complete, because it's super long, that is actually very good. And it kind of feels like some of it pays off in the end. But I also believe that if you play a game for 80 hours, 90 hours, then it shouldn't only be the very last quest that kind of makes up for the whole thing.
We just talked about Starfield. We just talked about the quest where you can lose a companion.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens in the first third or so of the game. In Dragon Age, the Veilguard, you, as far as I understand, without any spoilers, you can lose companions in the last quest. Is that right?
That's very true. But only in the last quest, as far as I know.
If you want to do that move, which is great, it kind of doesn't matter if it's the last mission.
No.
Because then, consequent is, someone isn't there anymore, and then roll credits, right? If you want to pull that.
And especially because they're, like, after you finish the very last quest, you kind of get this classic, like, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. Then the credits roll, and then you're just out in the main screen. There is not even, like, a continuous, you can't keep playing it. So it's just like, you can't even go back to the lighthouse and then kind of see which companion you lost, which is still there. So it just feels like it doesn't really matter. If you click continue, you just like go back to before you started the last quest.
This one I don't actually know if I personally agree a lot with from my experience, but I'll see what you think, Mr. 100 here. Linear gameplay and limited exploration. Unlike previous installments, the Veilguard is perceived as too linear, restricting players' ability to explore the game world freely. What do you think about that?
Well, as much as I agreed with the last one, I disagree with this one. For me, exploration in the Veilguard is great. That's one of the things they really nailed. I like the world. I think, of course, it's more linear than if you take an open world game like Skyrim and Red Dead Redemption, that's completely open world. And it is like, segments of different places in the world, like the previous Dragon Age games, which I also expected. But I think in those places, segments of the world, there is a lot to explore. There is a lot of different ways to go. It's fun to explore. There is a lot of loot and treasures and hidden things. Exploration, you can basically go anywhere at any point. So that I don't agree with, and I like the exploration.
I actually think if you just look at exploration, and also in a certain extent the game world and the art design of the game world and the excitement of exploring it, I think this game has done it better than, and I'm just talking about exploration, I think it's done that better than almost any other game I've played for maybe a decade or so. I think exploration was extremely entertaining in the Veilguard. There was always something. I think it was very well done, and loot was great in the game. So this one I don't agree with, but it sounds like you also don't. I think that was a really strong point of the game, that if we're talking Elder Scrolls 6, which we are, which I always am, it should be something they look at. Like, how was that handled in Dragon Age, the Veilguard? And should we have some of that exploration back in our games, so you feel like What's behind that waterfall? What's behind that corner? What if I go up this hill? Is there something? All right, let's go to number 3. We kind of already covered that, so let's be fast about it. Companion interactions lacking in depth. Some players feel that companions act more like assistants than fully developed characters, leading to a sense of isolation during gameplay. You don't get that buddy-buddy feeling with your companions as you would have gotten with like an Alistair or Morrigan in earlier titles.
Exactly.
Even though Morrigan is in there. What do you think? It seems to me they never really develop. I haven't played it all the way through, but do they ever get past that point? Do you get under their skin, so to say?
No, for me, for sure not. And again, going back to why I loved Origins is that it almost felt like your companions was like a second and a third player, because they were so well developed. They felt like they were part of your team. They had so much story and so much going on for them, and they developed through the whole game, where all of that is missing in the Veilguard. And it kind of feels like more of, I know, of course, there's much more dialogue, but they feel more like a Lydia kind of thing from Skyrim that just follows you around and says quirky things some of the time. And apart from that, you don't really care.
Varric, the dwarf, right? He's a character from all of the games, a fan favorite. And then the way that he was implemented into this game was almost more like we don't really trust our new characters so much, so we have to like shoehorn a character in there just to be around, because you see him, that's one of the first characters you see if it's not the first, you see in the intro of the game. So it kind of pulls you in with like, oh, Varric's back.
And then he isn't really.
No. Does he ever get out of that bed?
No, well, I don't want to spoil, because this is one of the last thing that happens in the game. And if you...
He gets up from the bed.
If you played the whole thing, you know what I'm talking about, but they tried to do a plot twist in the end that did not pay off. And I'm sure if you played the game, you know what I'm talking about. It was, that was kind of a letdown. And didn't really work at all. So, yeah.
Let's go through the last 2 points kind of fast. 4th point, again, different angle on the writing than the first one. It says modern and casual writing style. The game's writing style has been criticized for being too modern and casual with abrupt tone shifts that may not suit its high fantasy setting. I think you already mentioned that.
This we can do in 10 seconds. I completely agree. I think this is one of the problems with the game. I think it completely takes away the immersion. So yes, this is spot on.
I'm just going to give you the headline. Repetitive combat and puzzles.
I like the combat a lot. I think it was the best they've done in any Dragon Age games. Taken a lot of inspiration from the God of War franchise, which I also love. I think the problem with the combat was that after level 10 or level 20, you kind of had your skill set done. You had your equipment, your gear done. And then from there, it didn't develop. So yes, in the end, it got repetitive. The bosses were way too easy, pushovers the whole way through. But the idea of how they did the combat system was good. They just have to keep developing through the whole game.
But again, if we take it to the Elder Scrolls thing, I think obviously Elder Scroll combat, I should say, is not that interesting. It's cool because it's based on the strength of your gear. So like you can only really hit one way in Skyrim, right? Almost, but it kind of depends how strong your gear is, how leveled your character is, more than how good you are at the game. And that's kind of for me at least, that's kind of one of the like pillars of role-playing games, is that you can build a character that is then good at stuff, even if you aren't, in a way. Because I, for one, am not very good at combat. I really struggle through Elden Ring, but I like the fact that you can build a character that has the stats to be a monster on the battlefield. What do you think, if you take it to Elder Scrolls 6, like what do you think it can learn from the combat in Dragon Age the Veilguard?
I hope they do a mix. I would love to see a more advanced combat than they did in Skyrim. As you say, you can only basically hit one way, or light attack and heavy attack, and that's it. So I hope they build on that, but I would still like them to go with it's your gear and your skills, like your abilities, deciding how good you are at something, not necessarily how good you are at playing the game or fighting, for instance. So I hope they still go with that, but maybe integrate a bit more, different moves and combos and whatever.
And just before we finish this side quest and, receive our reward of 2 potatoes and 52 septims, I obviously don't think Dragon Age the Veilguard is a bad game. I think it's a very good game with some issues that kind of occur when you think about it in the context of the previous titles. And when you're 100% the Veilguard, what stuff is there that people forget? What really works great in the game?
I think, as I said, the last quest actually feels satisfying, and it felt like all the choices, all the side quests, all that stuff you did throughout the game actually matters. So that's a nice feeling. I always do that when I play a game. I like the feeling of having explored everything, having seen all the things they put in the games. And it's big, and there's a lot to see. And there's a lot. Again, exploration was great for me. And then it's also nice to finally actually explore the whole all the companions' quest line, even though they were a bit not very satisfying and conclusive. It's nice to see how it ended.
Sure. Just a quick score, 1 out of 10 after 100%ing it. If you want to be like objective and forget about all the noise that's been around it, where would you land?
I am right in between. I am at a 7 out of 10.
We're going to play a little game. You have 10 questions to figure out something. I am an item from Skyrim.
Okay.
And I'm lying or sitting located somewhere in Skyrim, if that makes sense. To make it could be that I was a tomato at High Rodgar.
Yeah.
Just for example.
Got it.
So, and you have 10 questions. Go.
Okay. Are you an NPC?
No.
Okay. Are you an edible item?
Yes.
Would you, if in a real life scenario, would you consider yourself food?
In the real world?
In the real world.
Not a lot. It would also be quite hard to come by in the real world.
Okay, makes sense. So you're definitely from that universe.
That was 3 questions, right?
That was 3 questions, yeah.
No.
Okay, are you from some kind of monster, creature?
I am.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, good one. Are you from what we would consider an enemy in Skyrim?
I mean, I'm not. I don't think I'm defined as but I guess I am. But it really depends. I mean, if you really go up to me, I would fight you.
Okay, then kind of. Are you from a mammoth?
I am not. But you're very close.
Okay. That is 6. Okay, could it then be? Oh, I don't know what to. This could go both ways.
Mammoth is really close.
Okay, like close also distance-wise to what you're thinking about.
Mostly distant. I am very close to a mammoth.
Okay, so are you a giant?
I'm not a giant, but I am from a giant.
Yes, yeah. You're from it. Yeah, okay. So I think I know what it is. Then I'll just have to see if I can get the location. Is it cold where you are?
It's a bit nippy, but it's not like wintry.
Okay. Are you in a city?
I am. Last question.
Okay.
It's kind of outside in the city where people are.
Okay, are you in solitude?
I am not.
Oh, then it's gonna be tricky. Okay,
you're just gonna have to guess.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess in terms of Skyrim, it's one of the warmest places.
Okay, are you a giant toe in the Cloud District?
No.
No.
But you did get 1 point though. Giant's Toe is correct.
Yes, where are you?
It is correct. I am at the Riften Market.
Riften Market. Fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yes. Fallout, especially Fallout 76, reached a high jump in like active players after the Fallout TV show came out on I think Prime, for obvious reasons. My thought is like, how great would it be if you launched the Elder Scrolls 6 and a TV show at the same time?
Oh,
that kind of like the hype, right?
Imagine the hype.
So I kind of was like, I was investigating, is that something that there's any rumors about? In fact, Mr. Todd Howard, yes, be excited, drop your pants or take them back up. He did say something about it, and I'm gonna read it to you here. He got asked if he would consider doing an Elder Scrolls show at the premiere of the Fallout show, I think. So this is what he said. I definitely have always felt that Fallout was the better universe to put into a TV or movie. It's just more unique. What do you think about that? Is Fallout a better match for a TV show than Elder Scrolls would be?
Well, I get his point in the way of, I think the Fallout universe is very unique and very recognizable. So there is a lot of stuff in Fallout that you kind of, at this, like, as soon as you see it, you're like, okay, this is Fallout, this is the universe, and we know it and we love it. There is the Pip Boy and the Vault Tech dude and like all that. On On the other hand, I think medieval fantasy shows like The Witcher and the Lord of the Rings show and all that is always kind of works, right? And I think something set in the Elder Scrolls universe would also be very, very cool.
Like, what kind of Elder Scrolls show would you think could work? Do you have an idea of like, oh, that would be cool to see?
Very like a small family, a faction, like go quite specific in what you actually do in that universe, because I think it would be super difficult to just go like, now we do everything in the Elder Scrolls universe. We go for the Civil War and we explain all the lore and we have all the Daedric gods and we do all the factions and we do all the, like, that would be too much. So I think it would be better actually to go more specific and then just start somewhere in that universe and focus on a very small, very specific thing and go from that point of view.
I think there's also a more, like, just in terms of writing a script, there is a good thing about Fallout, which is that the main character, and it's kind of the same in the games, have usually lived in these underground vaults because of the nuclear things happening upstairs. So that kind of means that when they go up and explore the wasteland, they are learning at the same time as us about the wasteland. They know a little, but they're kind of as surprised about things as we are. Where in an Elder Scrolls universe, you would kind of have to already know everything for it to make sense, right? The character is obviously aware of all the religions and politics, and it would be hard to imagine a character that is as oblivious as these kind of vault dwellers are. Fallout is this thing that is very unique, and I think people that watch the show that haven't played the games maybe also kind of love it. And I think Elder Scrolls, there was a bit high chance that it would just be another fantasy show based on Tolkien or whatever.
Yeah, that's my point. It's difficult to do something very unique with the Elder Scrolls as a TV show.
I just want to finish up by asking you, what you playing? Last time we talked, you were playing Doom, I think.
Yeah, and that's like very different for me than what I always do.
Top 10 things Elder Scrolls can take from Doom. Go.
Everything. No, nothing. Okay. Honestly, nothing. I love Doom. I finished the first one, or the 2016, 18, whatever that was, that remake, and now I'm playing Doom Eternal. I think they're awesome games. They're great. They're very fun, but very different from what I'm used to playing.
We lost all of our boomer listeners when you called the 2018 Doom the first one. Yeah, sure.
I'm very sorry that I didn't mean that. But what are you playing at the moment?
I am playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
And it's great, yeah.
So, I understand. I am a person that gets caught up in hype a lot. And of course, my current feelings about KCD2 might not necessarily be exactly how I feel in a couple of years. Right now, I feel like it's in my top 3 of all time. Like, of course, I would like to see it through because I'm not very far in terms of the story, but it's just a great game, and it's really an RPG. I just love how much it feels like an RPG. Like, it feels like I make choices all the time, that it has consequences to the story. And I love how it feels like he isn't Henry of Skalitz, my character. He isn't saving the world, you know? He's surviving and doing the best he can where he is. And that's super refreshing, and it really works well. Of course, it's a big upgrade. I also played the first one from that. It does have some of the same, jankiness sometimes, but it's a great game, and I hope you will also play it at some point. You have not played the first one, have you?
I haven't, and I definitely will play the second one. That's for sure. That's on my list, and I think we should next episode talk more about that and how we can see.
I should be done with it. I probably won't 100% it. I don't think I have 100% much else than cookies in my life, but I will definitely give it a go. So Jake, thank you for being here or doing this podcast with me, our first podcast. I hope we will do many more. Will you do me the honor of kind of plug our socials?
I will, guys. We are, as we said in the beginning, Jesters of Tamriel. We are called Jesters Tamriel on Instagram, and we have a little page where we do some memes and reels and lore and trivia about Skyrim, mostly, let's be fair. So go check that out.
If you somehow, I don't know who you are, made it to this point, it's also, you start something like this. Who listens? We don't know. Maybe it's Todd. And if it is, hi Todd.
Shout out. Hi Todd.
Thank you, Anna. Hopefully we'll see you again. Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.